We all have one enemy! And that's President Snow! He corrupts everyone and everything! He turns the best of us against each other. Stop killing for him!
Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 is directed by Francis Lawrence and stars Jennifer Lawrence as Katniss Everdeen in the fourth and final installment in the Hunger Games franchise. This is the finale of the Hunger Games movies and the second part of the Mockingjay book, and this is where Katniss really makes that final push towards the Capitol, towards President Snow, and you really get to see how everything plays out from the first three movies. She finally makes her decisions on relationships and family, and this is where we see everything come together, everything we've been building towards since 2012. Now, I wasn't around to review the last movie, but I thought it was a little bit boring, full of mostly hype-up speeches that didn't really amount to anything, so I really figured that this would be the movie that brought those hype-up speeches into play and really showed what those led into. I'm a really big fan of the books. I read the first one in less than a day and finished the next two in less than 2 weeks, so I really loved those, and I'm a really big fan of the first two movies. I really love Catching Fire, probably my favorite of all three of them that had already come out already, and Hunger Games was a close second, but Mockingjay Part 1 fell far behind the other two for me. Being a fan of the books and the movies, I was really hoping Mockingjay Part 2 would step it up and end the series on a high note. First of all, I gotta talk about Jennifer Lawrence's performance. Now, this is a career-defining performance for Jennifer Lawrence. She does really, really well. This isn't the performance she's going to win Oscars for, any of these four Katniss Everdeen performances, but when you look back on her career, you're going to say, Jennifer Lawrence was Katniss Everdeen, and she owned the role, and I wouldn't want anybody else playing her. At first, she was kind of unknown, but when they brought her in, everybody saw how well she played the character, and she's really nailed it over the past 4 years. Really, I only have good things to say about the performances. I always love to see Woody Harrelson's Haymitch. I think he's one of the best characters, probably my favorite characters from both the movies and the books. I think Josh Hutcherson does a really good job showing this character transition. Remember when he was head over heels for Katniss in the first movie, and even the second movie? Well, now you get to see how he transitions, and he's really a different character at the start of this movie. Really good acting from him. I also think this movie's on par with the best of the action in the previous movies. I think the action in this movie is very well done. It's a little bit different from the action before, whereas now it's kind of in this post-apocalyptic world as compared to the Hunger Games action. But it's different and it's really interesting, and I really enjoyed it. It's easy to follow, on par with the best action of the franchise. I also think this movie's well shot. It doesn't take a ton of risks with it, with the shooting and the camera and the directing. It's very simply directed, but it gets the point across, and it's not poorly directed, it's actually well directed. The directing, the shots, and the setting all do a very good job tying together to display how dark the mood really is of this movie. It also did have an interesting finish. Had this movie left a sour taste in my mouth? I'm a big fan of both the books and the movies, and I wouldn't have wanted that. This movie did a good job of finishing well.
Tonight, turn your weapons to the Capitol. Turn your weapons to Snow.
I did have some flaws with the movie. It was a little bit slow at times, sometimes just painstakingly slow, but it really picks up. Even the slow parts do a good job of telling you what's going on in the story and leading into more action. Another thing I really have a problem with, and it's not necessarily just this movie, but both relationships that Katniss has with the boys, Peeta and Gale. I find both of them really hard to connect with. I don't think that Katniss really mixes well with either of the boys. She doesn't really gel well with either of them. And just throughout the whole series, that's been something that's been hard for me to connect with. Even through the books, I didn't feel it. Maybe it's just because of Katniss's personality. It probably is because she doesn't really blend with either of the other two, and that was a big problem for me. Not just in this movie, like I said, but throughout the entire series. But it really showed in this one. And my final issue with the movie was how Katniss is used. Now, it's not necessarily how she is used as the protagonist, it's just how they describe her, the Mockingjay. I think the term is overused, and it gets kind of exhausting just early in the movie, just telling you she is the Mockingjay, we're scared of the Mockingjay, they're scared of the Mockingjay. It's overused. I just feel like sometimes Katniss should just be the protagonist, she should just be the hero. No doubt that she is an important part to the rebellion, but she should just be used as the hero instead of the Mockingjay, because I feel like that's kind of an inside joke that everybody's in on, and it doesn't really work for me. Overall, I really did like this movie. Like I've said a couple times, I'm a big fan of the books. The first one is my favorite book, then the second one, then the third one. and the most important part of any movie is the story. So if I didn't like the story the best for the third one, if I liked it the third best, this is probably going to be my third favorite movie, which it is. Overall, I think it's a really strong finish for the franchise. I'm going to give Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 a 7.2 out of 10. So did you guys see Mockingjay Part 2 this weekend? Comment and let me know what you thought. Or if you're going to see it, comment and let me know too. Also, what's your favorite Hunger Games movie? Mine's probably Catching Fire, even though that was my second favorite book, followed closely behind the first movie, then this movie, and then Mockingjay Part 1. I do want to apologize. It's been a really long time since I've had another video. I've been pretty tied up in school and work. I'm really trying to get back into it. This is what I want to be doing. So I'm going to try and get back into it. I want to start a new thing. I'm going to do a Throwback Thursday movie review. Typically I'll try and tie it into the movie that I'm going to review over the weekend. So for my first Throwback Thursday movie review, with Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan coming together, I figured I would do a review of their first collaboration, Fruitvale Station. I really like this movie, and I'm excited to talk about it. So as always, please subscribe, please follow me on Twitter to know when the new videos are out, and thank you for watching.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 76th Hunger Games.